It's episode 10 of the Denoise podcast, where we, the Blender heads at CG Cookie, are here to discuss all things pertaining to computer graphics and its premier open source software, Blender. My name is Kent Trammell, I'm an instructor at CG Cookie, and today we're talking to Blender Bob about his animated film project called Tiki. Tiki made waves in December 2022 when it was announced as a non-Blender Foundation open movie written and directed by Blender Bob, with the Blender community serving as the animation studio. The project gained a lot of momentum with numerous artists signing on, sponsors offering financial support, and even a trip to Tahiti to record authentic voice acting. After a year of open movie production, where is Tiki now? I met up with Blender Bob at BCON LA to find out. In addition to some intriguing updates and evolution to the project, we'll also get to know Blender Bob better, including his long history in the industry and with Blender.
Hey, Blender Bob here. This is my FM radio voice.
Oh my goodness, that's impressive.
My gosh, this is a really deep chair.
Blender Bob, thank you for being with us today. We are recording this kind of spur of the moment at the BCON LA conference. And first time I'm meeting you, which is an honor. I really started following you with the Tiki project that put you on my map. And I am extremely interested in, I guess, an update as a fan of the project. I hope you can share. I checked in preparation for the podcast, but I hope you have something to share.
I do have something to share. It's spoiling my presentation for tomorrow.
Oh, well, you don't want to do this. Comes out after your presentation.
Okay, so I'm fine. So I can say, but you don't tell anyone.
I won't.
All
Not
right.
a soul.
Yeah, I have some cool stuff, but I don't know. What do you want to know?
So the last thing I saw was on your Twitter that you had a hair bug that was driving you crazy,
Yes.
or a setting that I have been tripped up by that setting many times too. So I felt your pain there. So yeah, like where in production are you? Are shots finished yet, or they're in previs mostly? Just broadly, like where's the project at?
Okay, so we started about 14 months ago. And at the beginning, all I wanted was to do a teaser, like a few shots, just to show that there's potential for the project. But when I started it, I got so many people who wanted to join the project. I thought, you know what, while I have all this energy, all these people, might as well do the entire thing. So we started to model everything for the movie, all the props, all the sets, all the characters, everything, not just what we needed for the teaser. So at this point, we have pretty much all the assets done. We have, oh God, I don't have all the numbers with me right now, but we have like 157 props. We have 12 characters, 21 animals, 5 sets. So it's not that much for a full CG movie, but you have to understand that Tiki was designed to be made with a small budget and a small team. So it's a story about 2 people stuck on a tropical island. So 95% of the movie is about these 2 people stuck on the island. But we have some cutscenes. That's why we have more characters and everything. We just started to put everything together. We did all the voice recording for the actors, the 2 main actors, and we did the mocap. Alan, Captain's Disillusioned unpaid intern, did the mocap. He was the actor for the mocap, and he did an awesome job. We were supposed to get the equipment for the mocap from Movella in December. We wanted to do the mocap in December, but we only got it in February, at the end of February. So that kind of, we missed 2 months of production for that. So now we have a demo. It's a 4.5-minute demo. It's not a teaser. It's a scene from the movie. But the problem is it's not finished. It's more of an animatic right now. We just needed the extra 2 more months to finish it. And we still have to deal with some issues like the hair flickering that I was talking about. We use the GeoNode hair, which are great, but there are no dynamics in it. But we want our character.
Really?
Yeah, no, there's no dynamics with the GeoNode hair, but we want our hair to move. So we have a guy in the team who wrote a plugin, an add-on to do this, and we're using it, and it works great. But we have some issues sometimes that the hair, they flicker, and we don't know why, and we're working at trying to figure out why it flickers. But it's really awesome to have the characters move their head around and have all the hair going everywhere. But also, if they move too much, like Manatea, one of the characters, Manatea, is Polynesian. He has long hair, and if he moves too much, sometimes the hair will just interpenetrate with the head. In the face. So there are some issues like this that we need to fix. And it was also the first time we were trying the entire pipeline. So going from the mocap and going with the facial recognition, we're using a face app in the reality capture. We're using an iClone for that. So we capture the face and then we mix everything together with the hair, the mocap, and try to mix everything together. It was the first time we were doing it. So that's why at this point it's more more of a animatic level, trying the pipeline, experimenting with the pipeline.
Okay. My goodness, you've done so much work. The Tiki project is especially interesting to me because at CG Cookie, we run these collabs. It's a format that it'll also be the subject of my talk here at the conference, but it's sort of developed organically from within the community, and they serve as the artists. And I've so far served as the director of 3 projects so far. They're not full length, obviously, but they're short. And so Tiki came up when we were doing the latest one, and they were like, you got to check that out because he's doing it with a full production, like feature-length film, pitching it to streaming services and stuff like that. So I asked you the question, maybe assuming the audience knew about Tiki, but like I would love to know details about, was this like a passion project that came from you? It's been brewing for years and years. Like how did to lean on the community? Like where did the vision for the project originate from?
Well, I've been working in the VFX industry since 1995. And there was a period of time in my career where I got fed up doing this, and I wanted a new challenge because challenge is what drives me. Something new, something to develop, something creative. And I just wanted to quit everything and just start as a director, doing feature films. And I hope everybody hopes to do a feature film, but I started with short films and everything, and screenwriting also. I took some screenwriting courses in Los Angeles and studied a lot about screenwriting. And I wrote this story. I wanted to make my first movie. I wanted something that would be very cheap to do. So I thought, hey, 2 guys stuck on a tropical island. We just shoot outside with the sun, just the sun for the light. We don't need a big crew. We don't need props. We don't need, very little props. No sets, no anything. So that was the idea. So I wrote the script, but never happened. And then I went to BCON 2022, and I felt the energy from the BCON community where everybody talks to anyone and everybody is so excited and everybody helps each other. And I came out of there with so much energy. I thought, you know what? I'm a CG guy. Why don't I just make this a CG movie instead of a feature film, or a live action film?
Oh, wow. So
I rewrote the script because now I'm full CG. I can do whatever I want. If I want a volcano that blows up, I can just write, hey, volcano blows up, and I can do it, which is not something that's easy to do when you do a live action film. So I rewrote the script, and I proposed the concept on my YouTube channel, Blender Bob. And I said, okay, guys, I got this feature film I want to do, and here's the concept. We all work for free. Nobody is getting paid. And once we sell the movie to Netflix, Amazon, whatever, airlines, TV stations, whatever, 100% of the profits will go to the Blender Foundation. Not to us, not like, oh, once we sell it, I'm going to pay you guys. No. That's like a crappy deal, and it's not a good thing. What I wanted is a community work. And the way I see it is, because some people wrote some comments to me saying, oh, you're trying to exploit people and artists needs to be paid and everything. But the way I see it is like, if I was a developer, if I could code, I would write some stuff for Blender. For sure, I would be happy to do it. And a lot of people are doing it, and they don't get paid. Why? Because they do it by passion. I cannot code. But if I can bring some money and give it to the Blender Foundation, they can hire people who can do it. Well, for me, it's the same thing. Wow. So I didn't twist anybody's arm to get on the project. I just asked, hey, this is the deal. And also, once the movie is released, all of the assets that we have developed will be released for free for everyone. So that's how it started.
So it's essentially the first open movie outside of the Blender Animation Studio then?
There have been some short movies, but feature film, probably.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible. How has your experience been with the skill level of the community? Because you're bound to get a wide range of beginner to advanced. Yes. What's that been like?
At the beginning, I accepted everybody on the project because I was afraid I wouldn't get enough people to do it. But then so many people wanted to join the project that at one point I had to, hey, show me your demo reels. Like, I'm sorry, you're not at the level yet because we're doing a feature film. It needs to have the quality of a feature film. So there are some people on the project that don't have a lot of experience, but they were very cool because they model some props and there are some problems, some issues with them. So I would do a little clip just for them to say, hey, this is how you can fix your model and you can do this, you can do that, blah, 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 blah. They were very happy. Say, hey, Blender Bob made a video just for me to fix my stuff. So it's a learning experience for a lot of people. I got a lot of comments from people saying, in my country, there's no way I could do this. You gave me the opportunity to work on a feature film, something that there's no way I could do where I live because there's just no industry. I got people from all around the world working on this project, in Africa, in Asia, in everywhere, in Russia, South America, everywhere. Right. And even like in the República Dominica, and tropical islands in the Caribbean.
Right.
So I get people from everywhere. So it gives an opportunity to also work on a big project, something that is not easy.
Yes.
And the way it worked for me was we started with because at the beginning I distributed the stuff. So you're going to do this, you're going to do that. But then I got, I cannot just do this by myself. It's just too much. So I created a Bible with all the props that we had to model. And I rated them junior, mid-level, or senior. And I gave it to everyone, and I made a Google sheet, and I said, just write your name next to the one you want to do. So the project just managed itself. It was the same thing for the textures. And maybe in one or two occasions, some people took something that was, above their level. They had a hard time with it, and they just like, okay, I cannot do this. It's too hard for me. But for the rest of the time, everybody just did what they were comfortable to do. So some people just did one prop because they were like, hey, I just want my name in a movie. So they model like, I don't know, a chair, and that's it, I'm gone. Some people have been there since the beginning of the project, and they're still there, and they're still continuing. And we use Discord to communicate. And you can tell that some people always take the lead, natural leaders that will start giving advices to other people. So I made them leads. Hey, you want to be my lead texture? You're very good at what you do, and you're good with dealing with people. Hey, you want to be my lead modder? You want to do, So that's how I got people to, as I could delegate to other people because I cannot do everything. It's just too much stuff.
Wow. So how much of your time do you spend on Tiki?
Well, I was lucky because at Real by Fake, where I work, I'm the Director of Innovation and Technology. So my job is to find the latest, greatest technology and bring it to the company. So I don't do production work anymore. And a lot of the stuff on Tiki is actually related to what we do at Real by Fake. The mocap, the facial capture, a lot of features like this that are similar. So I could do both at the same time. So while I was developing stuff for Tiki, I was also developing for Real by Fake.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So that's how I've been able to do it. Now, in the last 3 months, it's been very slow at Real by Fake because the entire industry is on standby right now, the VFX industry, because there was the actors' strike, everything stopped. And now it's the technicians that are menacing to go on strike. So now they shut down everything. There's nothing going on in the industry right now. Everything has been shut down. There are no productions running right now. So just to give you an example, we had some numbers from the government in Quebec. There's 6,300 people working in VFX in Montreal. 50% are out of a job right now. And another 20% is on part-time. So it's completely dead. Some companies have closed in Montreal because all around the world because there's nothing going on.
Right.
Now, when it starts again, it's going to take a few months because they will have to shoot and then it's going to edit and everything. It's going to take a few months before we get more jobs. So for the last 3 months, I've been on temporary unemployment. So I still work for the company, but I'm unemployed. Okay. Which was perfect timing for me to work on Tiki. So for the last 3 months, since we did the mocap, I've been working from 7:30 in the morning until 11:30 almost every day, weekends included, everything. I just worked like crazy. And I finished the demo about 20 minutes before I got on the car to go to the airport to fly here.
And is this going to be premiered for your talk?
Yes.
That's exciting.
So it's not at the level I expected. We wanted a finished project, finished scene, but it's not there. It's more of an animatic right now. There are some scenes where there's no facial animation. We just didn't have time. We developed a system that when you have footsteps in the sand, it bumps the sand and everything. We didn't have time to implement it, so now it just looks like a cheap video game.
Right.
But it was a good trial, a good way to experiment and everything, and to see also to evaluate the animators also.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And there's one guy, Ken, who just joined the project, and he cleaned up about 75% of the shots on the project. If he didn't join the project, I wouldn't have much to show today.
Wow. So it sounds like you give the community an opportunity, and they end up stepping up and performing like they need to or what they know they're capable of. And that has worked out very well in your experience.
And most of the time it worked very well.
Wow. Yeah. That's impressive. That says a lot about the community, I think.
Mm-hmm. But, modeling and look dev, I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's much less complicated than animation. If I ask someone to model a table, I'm going to take an hour or two. I'll model your table and so give it to the look dev team. Yeah, sure, I'll texture it. Bang, bang, bang. A few hours, it's done. Animation, that's another thing. It takes a long time to do. So you need good animators to do it. And if the animation is not good, it's going to look crappy. And all the props that we have modeled and textured and prepared, everything is Pixar quality. It's awesome. It looks super professional. If the animation doesn't match.
That's true. So the earlier part of the process maybe has a higher chance to go well with modeling and texturing, but animation is a whole different story.
And it's super easy to find hard surface modelers. They are everywhere. Hard surface modelers everywhere. And a lot of them just did their own textures also, and it just worked. So animation, that's my issue right now.
Right. Okay. You mentioned you use Google Sheets for kind of providing an asset list
At the beginning.
At the beginning. Yeah. Okay. So I wanted to segue into tools that you're using for the production. In our collabs, it's very DIY, and so we use Google Sheets. We're using Google Drive for the project file management and hosting and syncing and all that. So I feel like very amateur using that. But after 3 projects, I've looked into other tools, and I end up being like, look, these have surprisingly worked better than I thought they would. But I'm so curious to pick your brain about what you have found, having your long, career in this industry, but also the specifics of Tiki's production.
Yeah, it didn't take long when you work on a feature film to realize that Google Doc is not going to make it. It's not going to do it. It's not powerful enough. So I needed to find other solutions, and we were using a Dropbox to transfer our stuff. The problem with Dropbox is that if I transfer a lot of stuff to you, it's going to take stuff on your Dropbox too.
Right.
So we have a lot of data.
Yes.
So we needed to find an equivalent of Dropbox, but for free and open source. And we use CFile.
Okay.
So CFile, there's a pay version where they're going to support you and tech support and everything, but there's also an open source version. You just install it and you're good to go.
Okay.
It's the exact same thing as Dropbox. It will only upload as needed. And so you don't transfer terabytes of stuff to everybody. You don't have any limits on how much stuff, it's not like the Dropbox you're limited to a terabyte or 2 terabyte. We don't have this. The limit is the file of the server. Right. So that's not a problem. And we have as many accounts as we want. So we decided to go with a C drive, and you can also mount it on your PC as if it was just a folder on your drive. So everybody is connected to the same server. So the server was in my basement on a Mac Mini at the beginning, but it was too slow, and my internet connection wasn't fast enough. So Real by Fake, again, company I work for, said, okay, well, we'll do it on our server. So now I get 20 terabytes for now of stuff, and we have a 12 gigabit internet connection, insane stuff.
A little bit of an upgrade, it sounds like.
Yeah, and everything is flash memory, is super fast. And so now C-File server works very well. Now, we needed something to replace Google Doc. We went with Kitsu.
Kitsu. I've not heard of Kitsu. Okay.
Yeah. So Kitsu is a project manager. And at the office, we use F-Track. There's also, it used to be called Shotgun. They changed the name from Shotgun to, anyway, I forgot the name. Pretty much they're project managers where you can have all your shots with thumbnails and everything, and can see the status, who's working on it, and the status and everything.
Right.
And Kitsu, also you have a free version and a paid version.
Okay.
And, they sponsor us. So everything's going to be on their server.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah, I didn't do the transfer yet. I was waiting for the demo to be done because you don't want to do something like this, a transition like this in the middle of production. But now we're going to transfer everything to their server. Okay. It's going to be much faster too, because now the Kitsu server is in my basement again on the Mac Mini. And so Kitsu is great. I love using it. Shotgun.
ShotGrid.
ShotGrid, yeah.
Oh, it's become ShotGrid. Yes. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I love Kitsu. I think it's awesome, and I like the way I prefer it to F-Track actually, because you can have a general view of everything that you do, and you have all the status of everywhere, and you can easily see who's working on what, and you can manage the entire project like this. But then you need a file manager, because Kitsu will just tell you the status. This is work in progress, done, blah blah blah. But what about managing the files themselves? For this, we use Prism.
Okay.
Prism again. Free version or paid version. Okay. In this case, you need a paid version if you wanted to talk to Kitsu.
Okay.
They're sponsoring us.
Okay.
So we get licenses. Yeah, the guy is really cool. I think it's one guy doing this or 2 guys. I don't know this. It's not a big thing, but Prism is awesome because you're in Blender, and the good thing about this pipeline is that you never go like file open, where is my stuff? I don't know, and you save it as a boat version 4, final V4, approve unapproved V4.
Right.
That blend. No, you never write a file name ever. You have this interface where you have all the icons of the shots or the assets that you work on. And I want to work like on the table, shading, and then you double click on it. It opens the file, you do your stuff, you go save. It's going to do a play blast automatically for you or a render. And everything is saved at the right place. Everything is named properly. And it talks to Kitsu. So you just go like send to Kitsu, and Kitsu gets updated with the latest renders and everything.
I mean, so that's like what, 3 different tools working together, and you've got it working very well. Is it with open source? Sometimes you can run into a lot of IT time. So how, with all those tools, you've got all these people worldwide. Are people confused? Are you spending a lot of time doing IT with how everything works?
Yes, that's another thing I can put in my hat of what I do on Tiki. I'm the creator, the writer, the director, the producer, the executive producer, the coordinator, and the IT guy.
Huge hats, each one by themselves.
Yeah. So I made some videos to show how to install it, but there's always something like an antivirus, for example. Avast was giving us such a hard time with Prism because it was saying like, oh, I don't know this thing. It has some Python stuff, and no, I'm blocking everything. And so some users had really a hard time getting it working. And some people know their antivirus software, others don't. So I'm like, how do I make an exception? How do I say it's okay? And I already said no. How can I change it? And so
right, absolutely.
We had some issues like this.
Absolutely, that makes sense. With how you've progressed so far in the project, are you at a point where you kind of get a feel for if things continue at this pace, will be done in a year, 2 years, any kind of ETA?
That's where I need to give you the big surprise that I'm gonna announce tomorrow.
Oh, wow. Okay, then I'll even wait for that. Yeah.
You want to know?
Well, okay, sure.
All right. Okay. Well, since it's gonna be broadcast after, so I can say it anyway.
So we can always pretend that we've seen it, we've enjoyed it, we've loved it,
right.
Which we will.
Huge announcement. It went so well.
Yeah. Okay, here's the thing. With the demo, I realized that this movie will finish in about 10 years at the rhythm it's going right now. Because if I go back to my full-time job at Real by Fake, not working on Tiki this time, working as Director of Innovation Technology, if I do this on my free time and all the animators do this on their free time, it's never going to finish because animation just takes too much time. So, Real by Fake, my boss said, hey, let's do your movie.
No.
So the company said, we're going to take the project, we're going to make it a Real by Fake project. So that means we don't have to deal with CFAL and Kitsu and this and that. We're going to use with the big infrastructure of Real by Fake, all the servers, remote, our render farm,
No way.
the entire thing, and the staff there working full time.
Oh my goodness.
And we're going to hire animators. Now it's easy because a lot of people are out of a job right now. It's going to be easy to find animators. So Real by Fake is going to take over the project. Now that changes something because when I presented it, I said it's going to be a community project, and we did a Kickstarter also saying it's going to be a community project, and all the profits will go to the Blender Foundation and all this stuff. Now, I don't have a deal with the Blender Foundation. I announced this, but I didn't talk to them and say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I don't have any signed contract with them. So of course, if Real by Fake takes over the project, well, they will want to make the money.
Sure.
But we will keep part of it for sure to give to the Blender Foundation. Sure. That's part of the deal. Also, for every artist on the project, they all had to sign a contract saying that, the basic stuff, confidentiality and all this stuff. But I also wrote something that says, if the project ever gets taken over by another company, another entity, and some artists get paid to do this, then everybody needs to get paid.
Oh, wow.
You cannot just say, oh, we're going to pay animators and thank you for the other guys who worked on it. So the deal will be that everybody worked on Tiki so far will get paid.
Wow.
The amount of time. So everybody had to log the time they worked on it. So there's going to be 2 choices. Either we send you the money, or if you don't care, because I know some people don't care, they told me, if some people don't care, we're going to take their money and give it directly to the Blender Foundation, the salary.
Oh, that's a huge development for the project.
And also, if Real by Fake does the project, because it's not a done deal yet, because we're still looking for financing and everything and all this stuff, because it's not 100% it's going to happen. But if it happens, it's actually going to be a much bigger project, and it's going to be easier to sell it because we're already dealing with Amazon and Netflix and Apple. We already make deals for them, so we already have contacts. Right. It's going to be easier to sell the project, and it's going to give much more credibility to the project than a guy in his basement did a movie. So at the end, Blender Foundation may make even more money if we go this way. So
that's a huge deal. Wow.
Yeah, I announced it to the team yesterday before I announced it on stage.
Okay.
They're my team. I need to tell them. So far, I didn't get any bad feedback. So I guess people are happy. And I'm sure some of them will say, does that mean I'm out of the project? No, that doesn't mean you're out of the project. But that means that if we need somebody in textures and we have somebody working full-time at Real by Fake, but for sure we're going to do it at Real by Fake first.
That makes sense. Okay, so it can change the participation of the community in that you're now competing with not fellow Blender artists, but like, Real by Fake artists, pros. Yeah, okay.
But also, I can feel that the team is getting a little bit exhausted.
Okay.
We've been on this for a long time, and it's getting slower and slower to get some stuff being done. And people are like, okay, I did a lot already. I want to move on to something else. I did my part. So I need like a 2.0 team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm blown away by this news. I can't wait to see how people react tomorrow.
Yeah. So I'm sure I'm going to get, there are always people complaining, and I'm sure on Twitter and stuff, people say, you're not true to your word and blah, 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 blah. Hey, 50% of the movie was done by the community, and people are going to finish the movie. They're Blender users too.
Right, absolutely.
So
exactly.
Real by Fake uses Blender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that their main tool? Is that their main tool?
Yeah.
I really want to come back and ask you about that. But the last thing I wanted to say about Tiki was the fact that, if you look back to the history of like Blender projects like this, I think of Gooseberry, which attempted to be community sourced and ended up that didn't work out. And so they had to go back to doing it more in-house. And then I think of like, what's it called? Wires for Empathy, Bassam Kurdali's project, which I got excited for in 2013. I'm still waiting for that to come out, but I fear it's probably canceled. The Gold project from the Blender Foundation, our Blender Animation Studio just got canceled. So when I saw your project, I was so excited for another opportunity, but fearful because what has happened historically. And it sounds like almost it started to not maybe look that way, or it was just going to take way too long. And I'm thrilled to hear how it's developed.
But you have to understand something. If for some reason it doesn't work with Real by Fake, for example, we don't find the money or whatever the reason is,
right.
Okay, whatever the reason is, I'm not going to abandon the movie. We worked so hard for this,
right.
And we got 50% of the movie done, and all the recording is done for the voices of the actor. All the mocap is done. All we need to do is the animation, the lighting, and the rendering. That's all we have left.
All of the mocap. That's unbelievable. I didn't realize you would. I almost asked about a percentage. 50% of the movie
is done.
That's pretty huge.
I'm going to finish that movie no matter what.
That's unbelievable.
No matter what. I'm committed to finishing that movie.
That's a huge milestone to be 50%. Wow. Okay. I imagine that was kind of a wild process just to plan and then record all the mocap for the entire movie.
Took 2 weeks, 10 days.
That's it?
Yep. We did it with Alan, Captain's Disillusions Unpaid Intern. He did the mocap.
It was very generous of him to offer his time.
Yeah. No, he didn't offer his time. No, because the deal also, when I presented Tiki for the first time, I said, we all work for free, but there are people who are gonna get paid. And there are the people who are not related to Blender, which means the actors, the music, the sound recording, the mixing, and all this stuff. These people don't care about the Blender Foundation. I will have to pay them. So...
Wow. Very exciting news for Tiki. Thank you for sharing all that with us. You mentioned that your career started in 1995. Yes. I would love to step back into your history and explore, because 95 to me is a little bit like the beginning, right? That's right after Jurassic Park and CG takes off at that point. Toy Story was 95 too. So you've kind of seen the whole progression, and can you just kind of summarize your history and software use studios? We love this stuff.
In one word.
Tron.
That was pre-95.
The first Tron.
Yep.
When I saw this, I was like, this is what I want to do. I would love to do this. This is what I want to do. And my brother told me, he said, you're never going to be able to do this. You need to be a mathematician to do this, and you're not good enough in math and everything. It's never going to happen.
So we're talking 82.
Yes.
Whoa, that was your original inspiration.
Yeah, I was in high school. Yeah. And then came Jurassic Park. I studied graphic design and photography before, and I was doing some Photoshop stuff and everything at the beginning of Photoshop, like Photoshop 1.0, and and on my Mac, and I could do some retouching and everything. But when all the ad agencies started to buy their own Mac and do their own retouching internally, I was like, okay, what's next? What's the next big thing? Right. And I saw Jurassic Park, and I was like, oh, now this is what I want to do. Started to do some research. What does it take to do this? Well, you need a Silicon Graphic computer, because at the time it was only running on Silicon Graphics, and the cheapest one was $60,000. And the software, Softimage, was $60,000 also.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So three of my friends and I, we get together. We started a company. We got some government money for young entrepreneurs and everything. We had enough money to start the company. And we got a computer at 50% off. And for the software, we wanted to go with Softimage because it was so much publicity about Jurassic Park and Softimage. And Softimage was created in Montreal. I'm from Montreal, so only heard about Softimage. But when I went to deal with the computer, the guy was also selling Alias Power Animator and said, "Do you know Power Animator?" I said, "I never heard of it." He said, "Why do you want to go with Softimage?" I said, "Well, Jurassic Park was done in Softimage." No, the animation was done in Softimage. The modeling was done in Alias Power Animator. The muscle deformation was done in Houdini. The rendering was done in RenderMan. And 120 software were used for Jurassic Park. Okay. And he started to give us a demo of Power Animator, and we realized that it was actually better than Softimage. So, and the guy said, make a small story, a small project. Okay, I'm going to make it for you. Show you how we did it. Go see the Softimage people and ask them to do the same thing. So, okay, so we go to Softimage people and say, hey, blah, 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 blah. And the guy was so condescending, saying, "Oh, we don't need to prove ourselves to you. Just look at Jurassic Park. You will see what the software can do. And we don't have time if we do this for every client." And we're like, okay, if that's your attitude, we'll win with Power Animator instead. And Power Animator is the Maya's ancestor.
Wow.
So it was before Maya.
Oh my goodness. Not many people can, I imagine, can say they've used the pre-Maya version.
Oh, well, I know some.
You do.
So then I started, the company went bankrupt. I mean, we thought we would make movies and everything. We had no idea what we were doing. We were a bunch of kids and we were young and stupid with a lot of equipment. The Silicon Graphic was a 200 megahertz machine. We had 64 megs of RAM. And when I told people I had 64 megs of RAM, they said, no, that's your hard drive. That's not your RAM. I said, no, we have a gig of hard drive. People were like, a gig of hard drive?
No way.
We're never going to fill this up. So, the company went bankrupt, and I started to teach 3D because there were no teachers at the time. When I started, there were no schools that were teaching. Maybe Sheridan College in Ontario, but there were no schools teaching 3D, especially in Montreal. But the schools, some schools started, and they needed teachers. I started to teach, and one of my students came for SIGGRAPH tickets in New Orleans, and I didn't even know what SIGGRAPH was. So I was okay. So I drove there from Montreal all the way there. Whoa. And there was a career center where you could give your resume there, and I gave put my bunch of resumes. 3 companies called me. One company in Florida, a game company, and I was, hey, Florida, that's cool. Yeah, right, Montreal, snow, I hate winter. And then I look on the map, they're not close to the beach. I don't care. Another company in San Jose, Metropolis Digital, they did because they don't exist anymore, but they did a little bit of movies, a little bit of TV, a little bit of commercials and everything. They were interested in me, and they were Square. Now it's called Square Enix, but at the time it was just Square.
Yeah.
And they also wanted to have me in an interview, but I'm not a gamer. I didn't even know what Square was. Anyway, I flew to San Jose to get the interview. They offered me a job and everything. And I was like, okay, that's cool. But I have an interview with Square, but I'm there. I'm going to go for the interview, but I'm probably not going to take it because I'm not interested in gaming. But
right.
So I didn't accept the job right away. I went to Square, and oh my God, they tore me in the office. So this is an Octane that was the latest Silicon Graphics at the time. You're going to work on an Octane, and these are they're like these big SGI fridge and everything, and all this stuff, and the equipment and everything was so high tech. And me, like an idiot, going like, but I don't want to do gaming. I want to do films and this and that. And the guy says, well, here's the thing: is we're going to do a full CG movie, and we could use you. And the thing is that we have an office in Japan. We have an office in Los Angeles. We want an office in between, and that's in Hawaii. Would you be willing to move to Hawaii?
Would you be willing? Yeah.
You're joking, right?
Of course.
No, the job is in Hawaii to work on Final Fantasy.
Oh my!
The movie, The Spirit Within.
Yep.
No way! You worked on that.
Kind of. That was my first big job in the CG industry. Wow. And so I moved to Hawaii. Of course, I sang, and they offered more money also than Metropolis. I'm like, I'm going to Hawaii. I thought I'm going to stay the rest of my life there.
Wow.
But it was a total nightmare.
Was it really?
Absolutely, a total nightmare. After 6 months, we had a budget of $180 million. We spent something like $40 million. We didn't have a single frame rendered. It was total nightmare. And after 9 months, I was fed up and I just quit. I moved to Los Angeles where I worked for VFX, and then we were bought by Rhythm News. I worked for Rhythm News for a while. Then I decided to move back to Canada, and then I worked for other companies, and then worked in London, Vancouver, and a lot of different places.
That is that's legendary in my opinion for Spirits Within. I remember seeing that in the theater and being amazed, like so many people back then.
It took a long time before there was a movie with that level of quality for the assets and everything. It took a long time because Toy Story is just like, yeah, okay, it's cute, toys and everything, but compared to the stuff in Final Fantasy,
that was groundbreaking.
And Final Fantasy was supposed to be so photoreal that you could not tell it's a CG movie. We're not even there yet.
Yeah, I think there are frames that could stand up. Certain frames.
And close up of an eye, and
maybe not that one.
But that's now the poster child for Uncanny Valley. When people talk about the Uncanny Valley, they bring up Final Fantasy Spirits Within.
It's true. Yeah. But back then, that was groundbreaking. I remember.
It was a huge project. And the production was enormous. I know I'm not going to go into the details of Final Fantasy because I could.
Bad experience for you.
A really bad experience for me and for a lot of people.
Wow.
But they had so much money, it was insane. I mean, there was SIGGRAPH in Los Angeles. They flew the entire company, 200 people, to Los Angeles, paid the hotel for everyone to go to SIGGRAPH.
Unbelievable. I've never heard anything about this. Wow.
It was crazy. They just burned money. At the time, Square, on the top 10 video games, 7 of the top 10 were from Square at the same time. They had so much money. You have no idea.
Wow. Okay. So one question I have for you is you went from, starting that company and going bankrupt, having no idea what you were doing, and then you're submitting your resume and getting interest from companies. So what happened there from knowing nothing to getting interest, develop your skills, teaching you were doing?
Yeah, teaching helps a lot. And when I was working, because before I moved to Hawaii, I went to the Los Angeles office because the studio was not ready yet in Hawaii. So I was there for 3 months. And I just took by myself to just give little courses to people, some training, because I like to do this and share my knowledge. So every day I would do like the tip of the day and tell people, hey, you can do this if you want to, blah, 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 and all this stuff. And they put me in the same office with the director.
Oh, whoa. Okay.
Yeah. And this guy is a guy that, the switch is on or off. It's black or white. There's no gray with him. Either he loves you or he hates you. And we had a very good relationship. It went very, very well. We had so much fun together. When we moved to Hawaii, I told him, hey, you're the director. Can you make me modeling supervisor? And he pushed and he got me the job as modeling supervisor.
Oh my word.
So from there, I'm modeling supervisor on Final Fantasy. When I moved to VFX, I was modeling supervisor at VFX, and then modeling supervisor at Ice Storm, and then at Meteor, and everywhere I worked, I was supervisor because I had all this credit. So it's just because of a student who gave me a ticket for SIGGRAPH that changed my entire career.
Wow. That is quite a story.
Yeah.
That's the dream in a lot of ways.
Yeah, but there's always drive with that. It sounds like you're very driven to put yourself in that position. I mean, that you had a working relationship was one thing, and then to have a comfortable enough relationship to say to this guy, I want this job.
That's, I always thought that, if you want gold will not come out of the ground and run to you. You need to take your shovel and dig
after it.
Get it. Well, that's how everything works in life. Nothing will just come to you.
Right.
But then you proved yourself too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you have to also.
Of course. Yeah. Because if you asked for the job and you weren't good at it, different story, different outcome. You wouldn't be sitting here. We wouldn't be interviewing you.
Right.
Yeah, but when I was beta testing Maya, I would try every menu, every item, every option, and write reports to Autodesk. And these guys were like so fed up of me just criticizing their software all the time. So there are stuff in Maya that is there because of me. Some changes.
Please tell me you have a shirt or a hat or something that says Maya Beta Tester.
No, I have a license plate that says Hawaii and a First Hawaiian Bank credit card. And I have some Square jacket and stuff. No, I don't have a Maya Beta Tester.
So all the memories are from the bad stuff.
I know, that's a shame.
I got T-shirts from every company I worked for.
So where did the transition or adoption of Blender come from for you?
Oh, I had a friend of mine who kept pushing me to try Blender. And it was 2.79 at the time. And it was like, you need to try Blender, you need to try Blender, you need to try. Okay, download Blender, install Blender. So I start clicking on the interface and I have this little cross that keeps moving when I click and I click and I click. And I go, what is that thing that keeps moving around? And I try to move the camera, so I try the, shift, control, alternate, first mouse button, and nothing. Cannot move the camera. And then I try the menus and I go into this render thing and how do I get out of there now? I don't know. And I feel like the Blender people, what they think is like, if somebody do it like this, we're going to do the complete opposite. so now we have a car. We build a car, and the steering wheel will be in the back, and the gas pedal will be in the glove compartment, and the left flasher will go right, and just to screw everybody up. Right. That's how I felt. I was like, I opened it and I was like, no, I'm not touching this. Then 2.8 came out. My friend again, hey, check it out. Then all right, let's check it out. And I started to play with it, and I realized, okay. But at the beginning, I didn't know the Blender community, because you need to understand the Blender community is also kind of a sect. There are some very anyway, you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
Sect. So I would go on the forums.
A cult.
That's the term.
I would go on the forums, and I would
It's
go
totally not a cult.
hey, in Maya I can do this. How come I cannot do this in Blender? And then you get like, if you're not happy, go back to Maya.
Go back to your own 3D software.
So then you realize that, okay, so the Blender community, you just go like, in another software, you don't say Maya, because Maya is evil. In another software, I could do this. How can I do this in Blender? And then people will be the nicest people on the planet, and they will do everything they can to help you. So that's what a community is. You don't want to be against them. You want to be with them.
Right.
And you soon realize that, hey, God, there's a lot of resources on the internet for this. And Blender Guru, you realize you search something, you always go Blender Guru, Blender Guru, Blender.
Doing it. Yep.
And every time you try to do something new, there's always somebody who did it before you. It's funny because sometimes I was trying to find out to do something, and I do a search and I found my own clip. Oh yeah, I did a clip about this 2 years ago. I completely forgot.
Have you ever watched one of your own videos to remind yourself how to do something?
Yes.
It happens to me all the time.
That was the case, yeah.
So Real by Fake is mainly a Blender studio?
Yes, and that was my call. Because when I was there, I started the 3D department there because it was just compositing. And actually, there was one other guy that was doing CG there, a guy I used to work with. And, they needed someone. I started to work with Real by Fake. I was working at Method Studio before, and Method is this huge international studio working on big, crazy movie, And I got fed up because it's like a sausage factory, and it's not funny. Before it was Atomic Fiction, and we had a lot of fun. It was like 80 people, small company.
Right.
And it was a great company, but then we got bought by Method, and it became gigantic international stuff and everything. And it wasn't fun anymore. So I went to work for Real by Fake because I know the owner. We went to high school together. Yeah. So I did a job interview, and we didn't talk about 3D. We just talked about, hey, how are you? Do you have kids? And all this stuff, and blah, 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 blah. And then I come working next Monday at the job, and I see my friend working there. And I says, okay, who's the, what's the rest? Where are the other people in the department? I said, well, that's it. What, just you and I? That's it?
Yep.
We're the 3D department at Real by Fake? I said, yeah. And the guy quit about a month or 2 months later. So I became the department.
The department.
The department. So I had to do everything. And I cannot do everything. I cannot be good at everything. And so at one point, I had like 8 projects at the same time. I said, no, I cannot continue like this. You need to hire people. So I built the department. We started to hire more people. And we had to decide which software we wanted to use. And, Maya is a dinosaur. It's not moving. It's not evolving anymore. And if you don't evolve, what happens? You die.
Yeah.
There's nothing going on. You go into what's new in Maya. It's like, we added a pivot.
Right.
Okay, that's it. You watch Blender today, and every week they were announcing new stuff that was coming every week.
Right.
And 3 or 4 releases a year. It's like, so I tested some stuff. I did some tests with cycles for motion blur and all this stuff, and the rendering time in cycle was just, oh my God.
Wow.
Stuff that would took like, what made the big difference was a shot we had to do with some trees. Yeah. And in Arnold, trees are impossible to render. They always flicker, and we had to send it to a render farm. Cost us like $6,000 of render farm just to be able to render this. And then after the project was done, I was like, let's try it in Blender. So I put a tree in, takes a minute per frame, and doesn't flicker. What? And we had some tests also, because if you want to work for Netflix, they will give you a kit. You have to prove that you're worthy of doing effects for Netflix. So they have some stuff that they ask you to render to see if you can get the quality you want. And for the anti-aliasing, we've never been able to do it in Arnold. We tried every setting, everything.
Really?
Couldn't get it sharp enough. Then I try in EV, default settings, perfect. Try in Cycle, perfect, default settings. Okay. Try the motion blur, radial motion blur, like helicopter blades and stuff like this. Perfect in Cycles. And the motion blur is better and it's faster. Everything was better and faster. Okay, so we decided to ditch Maya. We kept like 1 or 2 licenses just for like if we get something from Maya, we need to convert or whatever, or unfolding UVs, because unfolding UVs in Maya is it's still a
little
way
better. Okay.
not a little better, way better.
Yes.
But the Blender Foundation, they contacted me and they asked me to consult for the UV, so I know they're working on some
excellent.
stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And but now we decided to switch to Blender, and I could say that 100% of the people we hired, we had to convert them to Blender if they didn't know it already. Right. None of them want to go back to Maya. Of course, in the animation side, it's a little bit different because like, hey, I missed this. I missed a lot of tools in Maya that I don't have in Blender. But now they're redoing the entire Blender thing. And I told my guys, like, hey, instead of just complaining to me, complain directly to the get on the dev talk and tell them what you want.
Wow.
That's the way to go.
Yeah, I guess that's the the advantage of having a community there. Once there are industry people who are aware of how to leverage that community, someone like you can direct them to the developers and say, this is the people. Like, I love that.
But the big problem, I think, well, not the problem. It's not a problem. It's a problem for me, but it's not really a problem. The thing is that Blender develops stuff for the Blender Studio. What the Blender Studio wins, why we need this, we need that, and they will develop it for them. But it's cartoon animation.
Right.
They don't do VFX.
Right.
Blender Foundation doesn't do VFX. I do VFX. There's some stuff that I need that is not there, and that's, I try to push for some stuff.
So what do you think? I'm really curious. When Ton, I think I heard it from Ton first, where they ultimately were not interested. Our primary interest is not making Blender facilitate, the media and entertainment industry, right? We're not trying to compete with Maya directly. We're interested in smaller studios and kind of what we do with it. I think that threw me off initially, because why would you not want to replace Maya as ILM's tool of choice or whatever? What do you think about that?
I had a discussion with Ton about this, and he said, we don't have the resources to do it. And even if you give me millions of dollars, we still have a hard time finding the right people or the right programmers to do it. So it's not always a question of money. It's a question also of resources. And what he would like to do is to have a company like ILM. They have the programmers, they have the resources, they have the money, and they need something in Blender, they do it and they release it. Like Ubisoft does. They develop some tools and they release it to the public. Some companies do this. But ILM sharing technology,
probably not.
That's not how it works. Sony, no. So, and now companies are starting to develop their proprietary tools also. They have their own renderer. Sony has its own renderer. Disney, even Disney, who owns Pixar, developed their own renderer. And because they I don't know all the reasons, but I know that there were some stuff that they needed that Pixar didn't have, that RenderMan didn't have. And RenderMan, it's slow. It's really slow.
Yeah.
It's not very fast.
Okay.
And when it came out for Maya, I was excited because I used RenderMan a lot before, because everybody in the industry pretty much everybody uses RenderMan. And I tried the same shots in Cycles and in RenderMan. No, I got the exact same results. So why would I want to? And I tried different scenarios and different things, and it was always faster in Cycles. So, okay, I wanted to do a Blender Bob about RenderMan, and I didn't even do it. I didn't even bother because it was like, it's pointless. But the thing is that big companies switching to Blender, it's not going to happen because they have years and years and years of tools that they have developed for Maya. Right. Changing for another software is complicated. We had to do this at Rhythm and Hues when Softimage died. Yeah. And we had at VFX or whatever. And then you have to change to new tools. And everything you had developed before doesn't work anymore. And I had a discussion with the president of Rhythm and Hues at the time, and Rhythm and Hues had their proprietary.
Yeah, it's a hard one. Yeah.
Thank you. Pardon my French. Proprietary software for modeling, rendering, and lighting and everything. Right. And I asked her, why do you do this? Why do you spend so much money doing this? He said, well, RenderMan license at the time cost $6,000 per machine. So look at the amount of machines we have in the render farm. That's an awful lot of money. I can pay a lot of programmers at this price. Wow. And these programmers can do whatever I want and have unlimited licenses. And if I need something special, they will do it for me.
Right.
And whatever happens in the industry, it doesn't affect me because I have my own renderer.
Right.
Okay, that's one way to see it.
I'm so interested in Real by Fake's usage of Blender because I feel like a studio that uses Blender as the main tool is kind of a unicorn, right? You don't hear that much about it. And so when I stumble on one, it's like, hey, see, it does work. It is possible. I have a hypothetical in that regard we mentioned ILM. We mentioned that big studios are not going to adopt Blender, and absolutely, completely agree. I think people wonder about, well, does that mean Blender's not capable? And I have a hypothetical that I like to ask people with your kind of experience. Imagine, for whatever reason, every commercial software disappeared off the face of the earth. ILM tomorrow has none of its proprietary tools. It's on its own, but it has a contract for VFX for whatever film that they have. Given a year, can they take Blender and deliver those shots effectively within a year's time?
The big issue that I have right now with Blender, well, the issues I had with Cycle was light linking. Was like, how can a renderer doesn't have light linking? Finally, they made it good, and they made it the Blender way, because I was part of the discussion on how to do it and everything, and everybody was like, just try to copy what they did in Maya and whatever. Now, the big issue for me is MIP mapping. How come Cycles doesn't have MIP mapping? And they talked about that 5 years ago on the dev talk, and it's still not happening. And I wonder, what is the priority at the Blender Foundation that is more important right now than MIP mapping? For those who don't know what MIP mapping is you will take one texture that could be an 8K texture, and in the same texture, you will also have a 4K, 2K, 1K, blah, 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 all the way to like 16 by 16, whatever. And depending on the distance you are from the object, it will take the memory that you need. And that's the problem I have on Tiki right now. All my plans and everything, they're all 4K textures. And I need, my graphic card is a 6080 from NVIDIA.
Right.
Sponsored. Thank you, NVIDIA. And I got 48 gigs of VRAM. And that's what I need. If I had a 4090, I could not render shots in CPU because it's not enough. If I had MIP mapping, sure, I could do it.
That's a great point.
So imagine Tiki is just like a bunch of plants and everything.
Right.
Imagine if you have a set when you have like huge a Star Wars shot where you fly inside ships and everything, the amount of textures that you have right there. Anyway, they will render CPU for sure. They cannot render GPU. But for smaller shops like Real by Fake, we love to render GPU.
Of course.
We need MIP mapping. There's an add-on that a company does an add-on for that's try to simulate this, but it's not the real MIP mapping. MIP mapping is a must.
Right, absolutely.
Badly needed.
Wow, that's a great point. I suppose you don't run into that until you're at the production level. Like personal projects, smaller projects don't necessarily run into that.
And also the layer override stuff doesn't always work well. We have so many issues with this on Tiki. Stuff that just breaks. And if you have too many levels, it just breaks. What we would need is a great USD pipeline in Blender, because the USD pipeline is absolutely awesome, where you can everybody work on parallel on the same shot, and somebody does the asset and another person does the texture. In the same file, you can have like the set winter, the set summer, the set this, different light sets in the same scene, and you just switch to the one you want and everything. USD is awesome, but the thing is that I spoke with the devs at the foundation. They said if we had to install a proper USD thing, we would have to rewrite Blender from scratch. Oh, wow. That's not going to happen.
They say that a lot.
Yeah, because it's a technology that, even Maya, USD and Maya, it's just something they plugged in. And now they added Material X, which is something great, also developed by ILM. The idea of if you could have USD and Material X for everyone, everybody would have the same shader tree, everybody would have the same geometry. We could transfer this from whatever software. It would be awesome. But, Material X, they're talking about it at the foundation there. But, they need to, what do? Do you switch everything to Material X and drop everything? Right. So then you break the compatibility, or you keep two in parallel?
It's a tough job to decide how to prioritize what they do. I empathize with that. So with regard to the hypothetical, with its problems, that the MIP mapping like you're talking about, maybe I need to explain why. I would say ILM could definitely pull it off.
Oh, with the programmers they have, of course they could.
I think that's the key. But the caveat would be with the programming that they put into Blender, to make it work in that amount of time. Would it be like, do you think they'd essentially rewrite the whole thing, or would they add on tools that are already there and that's what allows them?
I'm not a developer. I cannot tell you that.
Okay. But in all your, okay. All right.
Yeah. But another issue, like you have stuff like in Arnold and RenderMan where you can do a proxy. You have a low res geometry on screen, and when you render, it's high res.
Right.
You have stuff like Loadify and some add-ons that will do this, but they also load the high res in memory to begin with. They just switch at render time. We don't want that. We want to keep the high res on the drive. So you have a very light scene. You bring an Alembic into Blender, it's going to keep a copy of the geometry in your file. So if I have an entire forest of Alembic trees, you save your file, it should be like super tiny because everything is referenced. But it keeps a copy in there. Okay. So your scene becomes enormous, which defeats the point of having everything linked.
Right.
That's for Alembics. So there are so many things like this. And that's because the Blender, they don't work in VFX. They do short films. For short films, they don't need this.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, last question for you. One thing that hearing your story, hearing your history is I feel like you've been good at kind of standing up for yourself in a way. Like when it didn't go well in Hawaii, like I'm out of here, right? You don't just stay there and I'll power through. Whenever you got to Real by Fake and I'm the only department, like, no, we need to hire people. I can't do all this. I respect that because I don't think I see it a lot from artists in the industry. Is there any advice that you could give people to encourage them to treat themselves that way, like to take care of themselves?
I think it goes on the personality of different people. For me, challenge drives me. If there's no challenge, I don't want to stay there. I mean, I worked at Method Studios. How many artists would love to work on a Marvel movie, on all these crazy things, and a Predator, and they would love to do this, and I quit because I would get bored. So some people would say I would stay there for the rest of my life, and but it
gets boring after a while.
It gets boring. It's just like, okay, model this,
repetitive,
do this.
Yeah, okay.
And I was trying to develop Unreal, for example, doing some shots in Unreal and trying to, that was like many years ago when they started to do the Star Wars Stormtrooper thing in real-time ray tracing. Right. And I wanted to bring this to the company and start to develop things and talk to the boss and blah, 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 blah. And wanted to push. It's really hard to get some changes in a company that's already established. And then we got bought by Method, and they said, we already have people in LA to do this. And you want to do something, we need to get it approved by the London office that will coordinate with the Mumbai office, and then we need to check with the developers at the Vancouver office to make sure that it's approved by... what am I doing here? Real by Fake, it's we're small, but we're productive and we're efficient, and
it's been the balance for you.
Yeah,
that's great.
It's much better for me. So
excellent.
For me, it's not a question of money. It's a question of, am I happy where I work?
Right. Yeah. Do you think the industry treats themselves that way as a whole, or is there a problem with us being okay not being happy, like broadly?
There's a big problem in the high-end VFX is that the artists are treated like crap. And that's why in LA, especially in LA, they're trying to get unions and everything. Right. Canada, not that much, but unions have been trying for a long time to get into the industry, to stop the 80 hours a week stuff and, having HR people telling you like, you just have a baby. You choose. It's your baby or your job.
Right,
Should never do this. It should never happen. And it's very frustrating that you have companies like Warner Brothers that try to hide that they do VFX and they do clips like, there were no VFX in the Mad Max. Like, oh, come on.
Yeah, seriously.
And Barbie. And they take the blue screen shots and they desaturate the blue so that it doesn't show like it's a blue screen.
Come on.
But do you realize that it's because of the CG artists that you make money? Remove all the CG artists from the equation, you don't have a movie. And it's like spitting on the face of all the artists when you say that. And it's very, very frustrating. And for me, I'm done working with on the big companies like this and working like crazy and, you don't get the recognition.
Right.
No.
Right.
No, I prefer to work on a smaller company, Real by Fake, and, it's a much better experience for me.
I hope your perspective and your posture is adopted by people in our industry. So thank you so much for doing this podcast with us. Very spur of the moment at BCON LA. Blender Bob, thank you so much. Best of luck with Tiki and now being, on Real by Fake's priority list. So hopefully. And I certainly hope that. So thank you so much. I appreciate you doing this.
You're welcome.
Thanks again to Blender Bob. For more about the Tiki project, subscribe to Blender Bob's YouTube channel and check out tikithemovie.com. If you're interested in leveling up your Blender skills and supporting what we do, check out our extensive library of courses at cgcookie.com. If you own a business or you work somewhere that's interested in onboarding Blender, visit orangeturbine.com. That's a wrap for this episode of Denoise. Thanks for listening.